Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2023, directed by Anthony DeBlassie, and this film is called Malum. So Malum is set in this police station. We have a very decorated police officer who is responsible for rescuing a few women from this dangerous cult led by a man named John Malum. Now, not only has he rescued these women, but he's also arrested John Malum and a few of his supporters. And so these cult members are brought into the station. This police officer is questioning John Malum, and unfortunately for the police officer, John Malum gets inside his head. He goes crazy, shoots up the place, kills all of his colleagues, and then puts the gun onto himself. So many years have passed, and we realise that this police station is not being used anymore. But on this particular night, very strange things are occurring. That these surviving cult members actually want to lay siege upon this abandoned police station for reasons that I'm not going to go into. And we realise the woman in charge of looking after this police station is in fact the hero's daughter. And so she wants to answers as to why he went crazy, and she believes that she can find them. But unfortunately, the further she digs into this cult, the more dangerous it's going to be for her as far as her psychological health is concerned. So what happens in the end? Something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Malum. I thought this was a very strange film to be made, because it is in fact a remake of Anthony DeBlassie's film 8 or 9 years previous called Last Shift. Now I really liked Last Shift. I thought it was a very good psychological horror film, and it was a case of seeing less is best. And it really got into your head and really started playing mind games. It was actually genuinely creepy, and that's a very hard thing to do. So to realise that he actually remade this film called Malum now, I thought, what is going on? This is a movie that didn't need to be remade, and so what was he actually going to do? Was he going to evolve the story into something bigger? But then I thought to myself, why not make a sequel or a prequel? Why did it actually have to be a remake? It's like he made Last Shift, and for some reason he got it inside his head that it wasn't a very good film, so it had to be remade. And so I was scratching my head thinking why this movie exists. But being such a fan of Last Shift and a fan of this director, I thought, alright, well, I'm going to watch Malum. I wasn't necessarily excited, but I was more curious as to why this movie was being made. And after watching the film, I will say that I'm none the wiser. Why did this movie need to be made? And the answer is, as I said, it didn't really need to be remade. It just shows a lack of creativity in today's world as far as filmmaking is concerned, and that is a concern. And so I'm going to go into that a little bit later, but what I liked about Malum was what I liked about Last Shift. The first quarter of this movie is like Last Shift for the duration of that film. It was all about psychological tension, it was all about what was inside your mind and going crazy. And I thought the cult were actually very creepy, and that was the best part of this film. I will say that the cult were actually, they looked crazy, they looked very scary, and so the atmosphere is there. I thought the atmosphere of the police station, it had a lot of ghosts from the past, and those ghosts, I thought, alright, well, are they playing tricks on this woman's psychological health, or in fact is there a paranormal entity actually really residing in this police station? And so that's everything that I got from Last Shift, and that's what you get from Malum. I thought Malum is a lot more gory, so if you are a gore hound, you're going to like that. I thought there was some creepy designs as far as creatures and all are concerned, and the gore effects were for the most part fairly well done. And so the acting was so-so. I mean, the characters didn't really have too much to go on. It's definitely a movie about the situation, and the situation, again, as I said, was very, very creepy. But pushing that aside, basically what Malum is doing is taking everything that the Last Shift did very, very well and just pushing it aside and making a film where it's basically documenting everything. So it's got a lot of gore, it's got a lot of creatures, it's not really shaping that imagination, it's not really shaping that monster inside your head. So the good thing about the Last Shift, it was definitely seeing less is best, but this movie is just overkill as far as gore, as far as creatures, as far as just really weird and creepy sort of stuff, but it's throwing it at you so much. The last quarter of this movie is just completely insane, but the insanity was reined in the first one. In the Last Shift, there was a certain sense of composure to that film that the composure is lacking in Malum. So it's like he didn't like the fact that the audience had to use their imagination in Last Shift, and so he wanted just to document everything. He wanted to please the gore hounds who go into a film just wanting gore and nothing else. And so Malum is just a film where the positives you've seen before in Last Shift. And so the positives, it's just recycling the positives, but unfortunately this movie just produces more negatives. And at the end of the day, you don't really need to see it. I mean, it just didn't really provide anything. I thought it was definitely releasing all the tension. After the quarter mark, I thought, all right, well, this is actually kind of good. But then it kind of delves into the story of the cult a little bit more, which is something that I actually liked. But then when it starts to go down the gory path, I just thought it got silly. And it just didn't realise everything that the Last Shift had that was going for it. And so why did this need to be remade? It could could have just been a movie on its own, and I would have thought, alright, well, that was a decent attempt. But remaking a film that didn't need to be remade and just making it worse is something that I didn't really like. I think Anthony de Blassie is better than this. So it's not a terrible film. The production is actually quite crisp and good looking. As I said, there are some creepy vibes, but all the creepiness and all the positives that Malum has, you've seen it in Last Shift, and unfortunately it just lowers the standard. And so if you brush this movie away and just take Last Shift for an Anthony de Blassie film, you're going to be impressed. But if you're going to go into Malum expecting something that's going to evolve the story, yes, it does evolve the story as far as the relationships are concerned and the cult is concerned. I thought, alright, well, that was fairly decent, but not enough to really warrant a movie like Malum existing. I just think it was an unnecessary remake of what was a decent film in the first place, and it's just a showcase of lack of creativity. No ideas, so what we'll do, we'll just remake something that was popular in the past and we'll just put it out there for people to see. But unfortunately, the question remains, why did this need to be made? And the answer for me was, unfortunately, it didn't. So overall, for Malum, I just thought as though this was just repeating all the good things that a movie had done previous and just adding a few more unnecessary elements to make a very forgettable experience. So overall for Malum, I'm going to give this one 2 stars. It looks good, but unfortunately, as I said, it just wasn't necessary. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.